Good morning, developers. Let's start developing. Today is the second day of the 2022 Advent of Code, and this time I think I managed to get all the controls right, so I will be actually seeing the task for the first time right about now. Let's see what happens here. Yeah, we have the elves in the jungle. They're setting up camp on the beach. Yeah, they have a giant rock, paper, scissors tournament. Yeah, that's the rock, paper, scissors we know. Yeah, we know what it is. Encrypted strategy guide. Oh, we're gonna need to do there was a huge experiment done with what is the best strategy for the prisoner's dilemma when you can have a dependent execution. Basically, if your opponent in the last game played this, then played that, and something like that. So I guess we will need to set up some kind of a scenario like that. Well, okay, strategy guide. Yeah. Aha. So in the first part, we will assume that something is the strategy, and after that, I guess we will have to a corrected explanation. First column is what your opponent plays. I for rocks, B for paper, C for scissors. How do we know what the other player will play? But let's ignore that. Shape for selected plus the score for the outcome of the run. 0 for lost, 3 draw, 6 if you won. Yeah, that's a strategy guide. Let's see what the strategy guide is. Oof. So the first, this actually, we treat this as this described around. So the opponent will choose rock and you choose paper, win with a score of 8, paper and rock with a score of 1, scissors a score of 3. Aha, so what we need to do is basically evaluate. This is not so much a strategy guide as it is in our current understanding, as it is a display of the outcomes of the games, and we need to calculate the total points. Basically, just like in football, yeah, the World Cup is right now. Like in football, if we have a set of list of scores, we can calculate a table. So we need to do something very similar. So we need to process the input, and that means that we can do something like this. And I can say I have this is an enum. I don't usually use enums, but here we have 3 and exactly 3 outcomes. So that means that we will have rock, paper, scissors, and we will have rock with a value of 1, paper with a value of 2, and scissors with a value of 3. Yeah, thank you. So now we will need to have another helper that for ABC or XYZ, it will return the correct value. I'm gonna be explicit. We can write this a bit better, or at least as a one-liner or something like that, but I think that I would laugh. like to have this somewhere along the line ABC, ABC. To RPS. Yeah, this is an awful, awful, awful name. But let's have it like that. So the input is not a string, it's literally an A or a B or a C. Yeah. And we want to do this. No, we want to have another which is gonna be XYZ to RPS. Yep, that's the code we want. Yes, X is rock, paper, scissors. So, this is one of the great things about the GitHub Copilot. If you have a method and you want to create a method that is very similar to it, it will figure it out. So, we have the line here. And then we need to just map the line. We don't need to parse it because the line is something like this. Let's create a file for the input txt, and that will initially have this setting. So we have the line, we need to split the line. To a space and map each of those values. No, not really. Because the first one is an ABC and the second one is an XYZ. So we need to split them into something like this. Again, this is quite unsafe code because this assumes that we will have a single space that will enable us to split the line into exactly two items. Otherwise, we're either missing data or doing things. So yes, this makes a huge assumption about the input, but that assumption is actually merited by the input. And we know that that is the input. So in general, we will need to have a check here that we will have those lines and whatnot. So for that, we will need to return basically an object when we have a first and a second. And the second will be that thing. Well, let's try it. So our input will be what our output will be. Yeah, we can have an interface that says around, and the round will have a first that is an RPS and a second that is an RPS. So this will give us an array of rounds. We don't need part 2. Am I doing something stupid here? Yes, I am. Because we have no idea whether this thing is actually, if the parsing of the second is correct, because we assume that. So what I'm gonna do, the round is not gonna be an RPS and an RPS, so it's gonna be, yes, an ABC, and the second one will be an XYZ. That is what is actually in the input. So that means that we can simplify this by just returning a first and a second. We can even return them as a tuple, but yeah, we got so far, it's not gonna be a problem. So now this is an array of rounds that we are having. Oh, that's wrong. That's here. Yeah, we just need to explicitly say that, yeah, that we promise that it will conform to the agreement we have about a round, what a round is. Because this is us guaranteeing to TypeScript that the input that we're gonna read in is gonna be correct. And TypeScript says, well, if you know more than I do, that's okay. I will work under that assumption. And we're already working into a lot of assumptions. How do I use this show input? Because I know that, I need to specify debug. So if I say npm run debug, that was the command, I think. Well, my machine is very shy when I'm recording a video. I have no idea what happens and how. Maybe it's because I have all of this open. But we can see that it actually works. Yeah, and you can see that the real running is relatively slow, but uh, it is relatively fast, but the overall execution took quite a while. So let's see what next we want to do. Seems that our input is okay, and now in part one, here is where we will like to map everything out. So we can have input.map each round to basically an object that will have a first and second, and the first will be this and the second will be this. So now we can call this rounds. And we will create a helper method that will basically calculate the value. Get round value, and that will take in a round, not a round, but first that is an RPS and a second that is an RPS, and it will return some kind of a number. Now let's look at the rules and the values. So the round core of the round is the shape you selected, and the first one is the opponent, this is one. So we will have the value of the second. Round to second. That's the shape value. And this is actually a string. No, it won't be a string, it will be a number. Yeah, and I will do a deconstruction here. So I don't have to do round dot round dot. Let's do a console look of the shape because I think this should be a number, but I might be wrong because we will need to do rounds dot map get round value. So here we will need to have something like return -1. This is an invalid because the rest of the thing will be give us a total score if everything occurs. That means we just need to do dot sum on this one and return total. So once we get the get round value to work correctly, the problem will magically be solved. Let's see what happens now. This is saved. Let's have another debug run. Oh, this is gonna be slow again. So we have paper and rock and scissors. So apparently I don't know how to get the value out of this one. Well, time to experiment. We need to run TS node so that we can run some console level experiments. Let's see, this is our interface. And now we can paste this definition here. And really, not everything is slow. Everything is quite okay, but the console is totally sluggish. Yeah, we have an enum, so we can say rps.rock, and that's a value of 1. So if we have rps of rps.rock, this will be the string rock. Yeah, so I think we just need to do that the shape is a number, and then we have that is the second. Yep. So I guess this is dot exit, I think. So now we can just run debug once more and see that it actually gives us the numeric value. So results are in and we have 2, 1, and 3. Yeah, that is exactly what I want. And now we need to have some kind of an engine that will actually play the game. And there's just no good way to write it because it's a circular game, so we will just have to do that. Const game value. That's also a number, and it's gonna be a lot of ternaries, let's say. Or we can say just, yeah, is the first something like this. If the first is a rock, actually here we might want to use a switch. Let's have it this as a -1 because we know that -1 is invalid. So the values that we need to do. If you win, you get 6. If it's a draw, it's 3. If it's 0, you lost. So we have 9 cases, but basically we can do them in 3 things. So we can say if first equals second, game is 3. And this is gonna be a let. There are much better ways to do it, but I want to be clear so to avoid lots of debugging because I didn't get the case right. Else if. Yeah, I hate else if as well, but sometimes you kinda need it. And it's something like this. I guess a lot of people have written a lot of code about rock, paper, scissors, so it's something like this. Else if. We need this kind of thing. So if the first is rock, rock crushes scissors, papers covers rock, scissors cut paper. That means that we have a win for the first one, and in that case, game is 0. Otherwise, so we covered 3 cases here when there is a draw, we covered 3 cases here when first wins. What is left, there are 3 cases where the second wins, so the game will be 6. So now we need to return shape plus game. Let's see if this actually runs in the way that we want to. Okay. We're just gonna do an npm start. The results are in and it says that for the demo input the result should be 15. Let's see if we are correct. You would get a total score of 15. 8 plus 1 plus 6. Yeah. So let's get the huge input now. 2500 lines, and let's run our code again and see if we got it right. Well, the results are in and it says that our answer is this number. Doesn't mean anything to me. Let's say what the advanced side will say. It says that that's the right answer. You are one goal star closer. So now let's see what did we get wrong with our assumption. How the round needs to end. X means you need to lose, Y means you need to end the round in a draw, Z means you need to win. Aha! So the assumption was that we are giving the shape chosen, but no, we are not getting the shape chosen, we are getting the result. So the total score is still calculated. So everything else is the same. The only difference will be, let's first just copy this. Get round value, we still want that. So we have this. For the first part, let's say that we want to run the second part as well. Return total. So here we mapped the first one to a position and this stays the same, and here I'll move this to part 1 because just about part 1 because this is something that is used only in part 1. Actually, I'll move it inside the part 1 method. Yeah, so we have a mapping method defined inside the part 1 processing so that we can't mix them up with the similar named one that we're gonna use for part 2. Actually, it's gonna be named exactly the same, but it will take two values. So we will get the opponent value, which is an ABC value, and the outcome. And depending on this, we're gonna do something. So we're not gonna do a simple switch, but we're gonna more or less run the game in reverse. So in this case, instead of starting from the game and ending up with the value, we're starting from the outcome and ending up with the game. So if we want to have a draw, that means that if outcome is what? Y is a draw. If this is a Y, then we just return whatever the opponent played. Fortunately, in this case, we don't need an else if, so we can have it like this. So, if the outcome is X, that means we need to win. We need to lose. So, now we will have a series of this. If opponent is an A is paper, rock, paper, scissors. No, it's rock, paper, scissors. If it's a rock, we need to return with rock, smasher, scissors. So we need to return. Let's see if this makes the wrong thing. Just a second. I think that this thing guessed what I want. Yep. The only thing is that don't let Copilot write your code for you without any kind of checking, because Copilot doesn't think. Copilot pattern matches. So this is all and great. This is the method I want. Only it doesn't know my specification. So yeah, I do want to have something like this. It looks ugly, it's an aesthetics, but it's operational and it's easy to understand, and we're gonna use it once. And the good thing is that it's totally encapsulated here, so who cares what we have here as long as it's operational, performant, and easy to understand. When it loses some of those features, then we will get to refactor it into a better and more complicated thing. But note that Copilot did not get this right. So if the outcome is X and we played rock, this will play paper. So we needed to lose, but we won because we played paper, and paper covers rock. So we actually need to do this change. So that's a small and insignificant change because the code that Copilot wrote was almost correct, but it was wrong. So it's on us to verify that the code that Copilot generated is what we actually need. So it won't make your thinking about the problem part easier, it will make your typing part easier. And that's not really the core of development. So this looks correct. I have no idea whether it is or not until we run it, but this looks correct. So if this is correct, then the answer should be correct. Let's try that. Of course, we're gonna try it on the smaller input, just on 3, because that has a known output value, and that known output value is 4 and 1 and 7, and total value of 12. Let's try that. So we got the value of 12, which is the value we wanted to do. And you can see that most of the processing time is done in the input. We have literally 0 milliseconds. And I'm not going to go below milliseconds because if the problem executes in a millisecond, I can at most optimize a millisecond away. But let's see what happens for the huge input. And let's have it running. We got the results back, so it's not 0 milliseconds this time, it's 3 and 2, and we got a very similar result, 13448. Well, I guess we would. There's just so many ways you can, a round of rock, paper, scissors can go. But let's ask the advent of code site whether that's the right answer, and it is. Yeah, we managed to do that, and we got another line of our image, and I think this is the shore of the jungle. So next day we will be going inside the jungle in 20-ish hours. So thank you for watching. See you tomorrow.